from? Just explain your background to me a little bit.
So my background, formatively, I sort of show jumped to quite a high level on ponies when I was a junior. So I jumped at Hickstead and all the sort of national shows. I was in the junior European team as a young rider, but financially I was then sort of taken into the dealing world. So obviously, the horses then became very much a commercial venture, and I suppose I was then coerced to a degree to produce horses in a very short amount of time, which obviously has a compound effect on the way you ride and psychologically as well. Latterly, I had an interest in eventing, which obviously led me down the dressage route, and I guess today I'm a little bit of everything really, but I am much more interested in I guess a less conventional way of achieving results, especially with horses that have got issues.
And what brought you along to the workshop today?
Okay, well, I'm a coach myself, and I'm very aware of the importance of straightness. And
a riding coach.
Yeah. So, but I actually coach show jumping, but I spend a lot of time on the flat with the riders that I coach. But I notice in probably 70 or 80% of my riders, if there's a lack of straightness in the horse, it often comes from the rider. So I suppose initially I was interested in your articles about horse and rider straightness, and I came today because I felt I had the perfect candidate in this particular horse that I've had for quite a long time, and although he's been I feel professionally produced, I feel in a sense we've sort of hit a bit of a brick wall, and I've tried diplomacy and I've tried force to a degree, and I feel that I've sort of hit a bit of a glass ceiling with him, and I just feel that he's an intelligent horse and he's fundamentally got superb movement, but there is something blocking him from going further, and so I guess I just wanted to use today as a way of seeing if I could get to the next level with him.
And coming today with that in mind, I know you've only had a short first session and we're going to ride again later, but I don't like to give you too much all at once, because the reason is it would blow your mind, because when you start to make changes from what you habitually do, it confuses the mind, and you're building new neural pathways when you get these feelings that are foreign to your sensory perception at that time, and after a bit you start to get a bit spaced out, and it's best just to then leave the horse fresh, come away for a few hours and then go back. So it's quite nice to split the lesson up and let it sink in on an unconscious level, and your unconscious mind then is turning it over and feeling these new feelings, so that when you sit to the left it's not going to feel so alien as it did in the beginning. So I like to do short, I think we did longer than 20 minutes, I'm sure we did, but I like to do short and often.
Yeah. Okay.
So it'd be interesting, we were talking about the 4-beat canter.
Yes.
Which is that one of the reasons that got you here, really, the 4-beat canter?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because I've struggled, certainly with this particular horse. The professional rider that rode him struggled less, because I think she is less reliant on force than I am. When I'm boxed into a corner, I tend to resort to an unnecessary level of force, and I'm aware of that and I want to resolve that. And obviously with this particular horse, that sort of confrontational method, or trying to coerce him to create a better canter, it just doesn't happen. It's got to come through relaxation, from him, and submission.
Do you think you'd have known that 10 years ago? Because you were very good today at letting go, and some riders who come along who have that tendency to force can't let go of it, but you did beautifully.
Yeah, I think to be fair, yeah, I think as I get older, I think I'm constantly going through this sort of assessment process, where I realise that there is another way, because although I've had obviously a degree of success professionally, there is always another way, and a better way, I think, and so I do try to be as open-minded as possible, and I think that's very important as well as a coach. to adopt that stance, because I think too many people rely on a system, you know, which is fine, but I think I want to sort of expand on that and not just stick to one particular system. So I'm very open-minded to, you know, different methods.
So how would you summarise what you picked up from that lesson you can take away from you?
Okay, I think probably the fact that it was a simple, effective way of putting the horse into a position where he was addressing his weakness.
Yeah. Kind.
Yeah.
And I think also when you're thinking about, for example, you're thinking about 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you're actually thinking a lot about your seat.
Yes.
And in thinking about your seat, you're bringing your attention back to you.
Yes.
Do you not think in riding it's usually not there? It's usually more, in the conventional riding, it's more about putting the horse into this position. It's more about the horse.
Absolutely.
Which puts pressure on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think traditionally, you know, riding instruction has been very, very horse focused, and I think it still is to a degree. I think the tide is turning though. I think modern coaching techniques are beginning to address that, and, you know, look at the importance of the riders.
Do you feel it's changing in the jumping world?
I think the priority in the jumping world, as in any sort of competitive environment, the most important thing is always results, and so
the horse is a machine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's quite a simplistic overview, because they probably oil the machine very well. You know, it has the best nutrition and so on, and to them, the best standard of training. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's well known that, you know, quite often the elite riders in any equestrian sphere are the ones that resort to the techniques that, you know, the general public wouldn't approve of if they knew, you know, what really went on.
Yeah.
To change that is going to be, I see, as almost an insurmountable.
It's interesting because that's going on in the dressage world as well.
Yeah.
And that's what me and Gerd and Philippe Carl were. Gerd Heuschmann, who wrote Tug of War, and Philippe Carl, 50 Truths of Modern Dressage, is where we are kind of coming up now to bring a whole new way of riding.
Yeah.
And I think what will change thing is, just like Pirelli's changed a lot and Monty Roberts has changed a lot in the horse world, the rider's relationship with the horse. I think this is going to do the same. And like Gerd says, if you go to competition and see something you don't like, leave. And it will be the uprising of the public that make the authorities and the judges and the top trainers who are using these brutal methods to change.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way it's going to happen, for the uprising of the public. Well, thank you for coming along.
Well, thank you very much.
And I love your horse.